Hi there, and thanks for joining the audio version of the blog Off Grid and Entertaining in Portugal. The sun is shining, the birds are tweeting, the skies are blue, and the plants are taking over the fields and the gardens. This week's dispatch is called Summertime, and the living is easier, but definitely busier. Dry January is a distant memory. Lent is nearly done. The sun is shining here in the valley, and spring has not only sprung, but is now powering into summer. Personally, January wasn't terribly dry because of my birthday and the weather, and I somehow missed the start of Lent altogether, presumably due to that food and wine binge in Cape Town I told you about last time. But my annual weight loss programme doesn't usually get underway until around this time of year anyway. The need to shed pounds was the biggest takeaway from my annual medical MOT this week. At least the blood pressure, blood sugar and cholesterol levels are in strangely reasonable shape. But it's a good incentive to get the legs moving on a daily walking routine. Good preparation for the Big Countryside Strim-Off. For new readers, and loads of you have been arriving recently, thank you for following our journey, there is a legal fire prevention requirement to cut back all the vegetation within 50 metres of every building. Now, it was tough with 2 buildings. It got even harder with 5. And after such a wet winter, it's going to be a busy one this year. The undergrowth is exploding thanks to all the water in the soil and the power in the sun. So I'm currently watching in trepidation as my workload grows by the day. It's always that balance of leaving enough time to do the work before an often movable deadline, but not cutting too early. A bit of April rain can bring a second spurt of growth, which then needs another round of grass cutting and a doubling of the workload. Speaking of spurts, one of our agaves has already got a head start on us and on all of its chums. The oldest of the plants are maybe 20 years old now and reaching the end of their lives. Their last act is to use up every bit of remaining energy and fire a flower many metres into the air. They grow incredibly quickly, and the one that started this week has already done its first metre. Do go online and have a look at the photos to get an idea of what it is I'm talking about. Every year we kick ourselves because the plan is to intervene just before the flower starts to grow, cut out the sugar-filled core of the plant, smoke it, ferment it, and distill it into mezcal. Every year, the buggers beat us to it. There's already a lot of energy being expended here in the valley. I'm amid a DIY frenzy of getting everything ready in preparation for this year's high season. I've been doing what they always tell you not to do and playing with electricity, as well as plasterboard, plumbing and paint. The weeds have been exploding through the gravel, and we've been trying to pull them up while the currently malleable clay soil turns into concrete. That transformation takes just a week of warmth, which we are now enjoying. And so we'll be turning to strong vinegar and that electric high-temperature zappy thingy I bought last year to keep control of our paths and walkways. Krishna is working like a demon as ever, painting, cleaning, weeding and planting. Pumps and pressure switches have been coaxed back into life or repaired, thanks Cristiano. A few solar panels which flipped over in high winds are back in business. And after some winter neglect, the saltwater swimming pool is back to its gleaming best. And it's not just getting out the unwanted plants, of course. Spring is also about getting all the new ones in. A bag of old potatoes, hastily planted in our raised beds, has already become a jungle of greenery, trying to crowd out the garlic, spinach, spring onions and parsley, which are all doing fabulously. We'll be popping into the plant nursery this week with a trailer to plan some new additions to our landscape. But the big news this year is the vineyard. The post-it note wall may be full of many, many projects, so many that their very presence strikes fear, but we've decided to become viticulturalists anyway. The 800 plants have been ordered, and despite all the time spent on reading, researching, asking advice from so many wonderful people, it's all happening now extremely quickly. The half-hectare we've set aside for the vines was first cleared by Gonzalo Oliveira, the Cow King's son, which I guess makes him O Príncipe de Vacas, before Christmas and before all the rain came along. We delayed ploughing in the organic material needed to boost around 40 centimetres of acidic topsoil, exhausted after decades under eucalyptus, and we're glad we did. The heavy rain would have leached out many of the nutrients. Everything below that thin layer of soil is clay, with a crust so tough the pine tree roots spread sideways rather than down, making them teeter in the wind. It's a juggling act of doing everything in the right order so the young vines can be planted the day they're delivered. And it's even more complicated because the soil is still wet. We have a narrowing window to arrange the delivery of 25 tonnes of organic material, a tonne of phosphates, and whatever lime we can find to reduce the acidity, which all needs to be moved into place and ploughed into the soil. Then we have to decide where the plants are going and arrange for a ripper to visit, a bulldozer with a big metal spike mounted on the front to rip deep lines through the clay crust down to about 1.2 metres to give the root growth a head start. Only then can we place the irrigation lines and plant the Portuguese wine grapes we've chosen, 400 Castelao Reds and 200 Arinto and 200 Alvarinho in the white. The clock is clearly ticking. The table grapes, which grow near our house, are already bud bursting, and we need to get the vines in before summer proper arrives. The wet winter delayed building and landscaping work across the whole region for everybody, and so there's now a sudden rush of demand to dig and clear and plough and rip. So it's a challenge. Let's hope we can keep the juggling balls spinning and the plates in the air. With a long to-do list, we're delighted to have a new arrival. Jose Perez has joined us for 6 months as part of the Erasmus European Exchange Programme for young entrepreneurs. Jose is from Gran Canaria, where his young business is to set up an off-the-grid tourism lodge 1,700 metres up on the edge of a dormant volcano crater. The programme is about the age of the business rather than the entrepreneur, which thankfully means he's got a lot of experience in sales and in handiwork. I'd obviously heard of the Erasmus programme supporting students for European exchanges, but I wasn't aware of the entrepreneur scheme until it was introduced to me by the head of the British Portuguese Chamber of Commerce, Chris Barton. I'm going to do a deep dive into the scheme for a magazine article which I'll share here, but suffice to say, the EU is funding Jose's 6 months with us, and we're hugely appreciative of his help. He's been diving into the DIY, and it's great having someone with a business mind and fresh eyes moving into the valley. In exchange, Jose will learn about all our off-grid systems and how a new business like ours navigates the scary new world. Jose has English to level A2. I passed my A2 in Portuguese a couple of years ago and have just passed my B1 this month. But his English is so much better than my Portuguese. More speaking practice required, I think, as I embark on the next level, B2. It is unbelievable that Easter is already just around the corner. We have a fantastic weekend planned with our sommelier friend Joanna Hutchins. So why not come and join us? Our Easter Sunday food and wine pairing lunch is a dress rehearsal for the wine retreat in May, which we still have 2 places left for, and another retreat in early October, if you're interested. And if cancelled flights have messed with your holiday plans, come and stay with us for a few nights. Book online on the website as usual, or get in touch with us. The 15% off reader's discount still applies. Just add the code SPRING26 on checkout. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to me rant and rave once again this week. I'll speak to you next time.